Happy Wednesday night. Welcome to Deep in the Plus. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside, and tonight we have for you a Pixar classic. And to talk about it, our good friend Katie is with us. Katie, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Rob?
I'm doing well. So, you and I have been trying to get together and do something for a while now. I feel like you picked out something else and you weren't able to do it, and I can't remember which one that was recently.
I think we were gonna do the Muppets.
Oh, the Muppets, right, because you are a big Jim Henson fan. But
Yeah,
then we were talking about
always.
doing something now, and because of Lightyear coming out, I had suggested Toy Story, and you're like, you know what? If we're gonna do a movie like a Pixar, let's do a Bug's Life. And I'm like, what? I mean, most people
What?
that's not their. And I'm on board. I'm on board. I think it is an overlooked movie because it's never gotten a sequel, and it doesn't get brought up a lot. I feel like. I mean, but you have an affinity for this movie.
I do. Bugs Life has just since I was a kid, it was always my favorite Pixar movie. Flik is probably my favorite Disney character of all time. I still say that. Tough to be a bug, one of my favorite attractions of all time. So I'm on the Bugs Life boat. I love everything about this film. I love the history of it. So I'm really excited to dive into this tonight. Excited to hear your thoughts, Rob. Of course, as always.
Yikes. Okay. Well, so there's your boy. There's Flick. I just it's so crazy to me because again you love throwback stuff. You like the old school. I even pitched $1 Million Duck to you and you went pass for this. So again, pretty
Yeah.
exciting. When I saw this movie in the theater, this movie came out in 1998. That there wasn't a Katie in 1998, correct?
I'm a millennial child. I was born in 2000.
Yeah. Okay. So in 1998, when I saw this in the theater, it opened up with Jerry's Game, and it was the second Pixar movie. And I loved Toy Story, and then going to see this one, it was like, well, let's see what's next. And I was kind of blown away at the time because I think the animation, especially the backgrounds, was leaps and bounds over what we saw when we got to see Toy Story. And so then to see it
Absolutely.
and to see like the backgrounds and everything for this, it was really to me like the next generation of computer animation. Now looking back on it though, it does sort of look a little aged. Like I can feel like the CGI puppetry is a little rough. Flick's face when you have close-ups is a little rough, especially in HD. But at the time, it was pretty amazing to see. And then again, Jerry's Game opened up, which is one of my favorite shorts. I think is very funny. And then to see it with this, but I don't know. I don't know. How do you when you went back and looked at it this time? Did you feel like the animation was a little maybe not as good as you remember?
So I've recently watched the first Toy Story film, and always after watching Toy Story, Bugs Life is like a gift, right? Because Toy Story is like first of the line. But looking at it now, CGI has evolved so much from what we're seeing in these Pixar films coming out. It's definitely dated. Like the ants, I think specifically character design, a little bit dated, but I don't think any of the scenery, the ant hill, any of that looks out of touch. I think, yeah, even that scene, like every single blade of grass was animated individually, every single ant was individually animated. I believe on this film, after Toy Story, Pixar had to buy and make 7 new servers just to hold all of the information that Bugs Life was taking to produce. So it was just such a jump from what they were doing, but such so behind from what we have now. So it is interesting to step back and watch it.
Yeah, you go back and you watch Tin Toy, and that baby is of nightmares. And then
Yes,
you see the stuff that they did with Andy, and it's like, okay, the toys look good because they're plastic and they're supposed to look that way. And then now you have, this whole thing that's these animated ants, which, again, I think they do a fairly good job when you see them as a colony. But when you see like Flick up close, I think you see a lot of those flaws they were probably still dealing with. But it does seem like they went, okay, we had success with Toy Story in 95. It's 98. They had probably a lot more money to work with because they had proven themselves. And so I think a lot of that shows. But again, it looks a little aged. But I think each Pixar movie kind of looks that way. I'm a huge Incredibles fan. That's my ride or die
Pixar film.
is Incredibles. That
I
one
know we
when
should do a show. We should do a show just ranking
just
Pixar
ranking the
films. I feel
Pixar's.
like that's a topic in itself.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of people have done it in the past, but now with Lightyear coming out, maybe it'll be it'll be time to do it again. But I'm with you. That would be kind of fun to do. But like, I love The Incredibles. I love the music from The Incredibles, the storyline, superheroes, like the lore, and then I thought it was great animation until like the next things came along, and now you go back and look at that, and even Incredibles looks like a little rough. One of the things I want to ask you, but we can wait to the end about this, and so just think about it, is about why you think this one hasn't had a sequel when all the other OG ones have. So just hold on to that thought, and we'll talk about that later. But so this movie, they went back to the well with Randy Newman. So they brought Randy Newman back. They were like, hey, this worked. Let's bring him back. Same thing Tim Burton always did with Danny Elfman. They just brought back Randy
Right.
Newman, had him do some more music. Joe Ramp was like really involved with this one to the point where he also voiced Heimlich. That was kind of cool. Unfortunately, he just passed away since then, but he was very involved with this movie in the making of it as well. Visually, though, again, I think the backgrounds so beautiful. Like, I think that they
It's
did amazing things with it.
the colors, like, really, it's so beautiful looking at these exterior moments that we didn't get in Toy Story. Toy Story is mainly, there's a few scenes outside, but this whole time we're outside, we're in this ant colony. It's such a jump from Andy's room. We're in like a completely different habitat and not in a human world. So seeing how Pixar placed that for their first film outside of the human realm is so crazy to me always. I think touching on music, like you said with Randy Newman, the music matches every single animated frame so well. I believe Bugs Life won a Grammy for Best Instrumental Composition too by Randy Newman. So I think just everything fell in place so well, like music, animation, character design, script, to make I think the best Pixar film. But we'll keep going
If you do say so yourself, yeah. You know what though,
if I
like,
do say so.
this 1998 was also the year that Mulan came out, and I feel like Mulan for Disney was a much bigger deal than this one. And I don't know if Bugs Life. It could have been several reasons where I feel like Bugs Life missed the mark because either there was that DreamWorks movie Ants that came out around the same time, or whether it was because it wasn't Toy Story. I don't know why, what happened, but I do think that, again, it probably doesn't get its fair shake because it's up there
Yeah.
with all the rest of these, with Toy Story and Monsters Inc. and The Incredibles that we talked about, and it is such a good movie. I think it's very strong. So when it opens up, you've got you're learning about this colony. They're gathering food. You're really not sure why. They're very efficient. You got some, like, there's a lot of bug jokes in this thing, like
Lots of bug jokes.
when the leaf falls and the guy's freaking out because now he can't follow the ant that's in front of him, and then the other guy has to come down and walk him through it, and that was kind of cute. And then you kind of learn about all these guys, and they're trying to make this quota, and through the dialogue and the exposition, you learn about the fact that the queen is passing on the control of the colony to her daughter, Princess Ada. Then there's a smaller princess, Princess Dot, and then you learn about this guy Flik, who is an inventor, but he's a little quirky, and everybody kind of groans whenever he comes up with a plan. He can't seem to do things right, and that to me is a trope that we see a lot in Disney movies. The
Yeah.
kind of absent-minded professor. The Wayne Zelinsky is kind of that way, and the
Yeah.
absent-minded professor himself was that kind of way. So I feel like we see this trope a lot. The guy who is so smart, but he keeps getting in his own way. I mean, even Meet the Robinsons. I mean, he keeps trying to make these
Yeah.
little inventions, and he's so smart, but they always just seem to miss just by a little bit. Is that what you like about Flick?
Okay. Honorable mention for this toy I just bought at Target. I have to show you guys. But Adventure Flick is probably my favorite of all time. And he actually comes on a leaf with Dot. So I have him like sitting on my
What?
desk with Dot. Yeah, because Adventure Flick, it's just, I think he spoke to me so much. Because he had just, what Flick has the will. Like, everyone is constantly down on him. Nobody believes in him. And he doesn't even notice that they don't believe in him. It doesn't even hit his brain. He leaves the colony and he says, "Good luck, everyone," and they all clap that he leaves. But they're clapping because he did leave. He thinks they're clapping for good luck. So he's just kind of aloof, goofy character. He has a good heart. I think compared to a lot of other Pixar main, like I feel like people relate him to like a Woody type character sometimes, but Flik is just so individual, and how he interacts with the rest of the colony is very special.
I love with that adventure flick, as you're calling him, where he's got all the like the kind of seeds hanging off of his pack, and
Yeah,
they kind of like clang together like pots would on a regular camping pack as he's making his way through. So, yeah, and it
and the I would say like when he, as we're getting into it, I was related to Flik because he had no problem leaving. Like he would get up and leave at the question of the princess immediately. So like I moved away when I was quite young. So like looking up to Flik always as a kid, like it's possible. It's possible. And when he goes to the circus, it is such a scary place, and he's almost dumb. He's almost dumb that he does not realize what's going on, but he still makes it work, and he gets back.
there are moments, and like Michael Scott in The Office, there are moments where he kind of like it all works, and he kind of shines. Like when he decides to grab this dandelion so that he can float across the the divide there, the riverbed. That's just it's kind of genius. I mean, the fact that he is able to like figure those things out, and he has those little winning moments. But then, of course, those winning moments are like tempered when he does things like falls, face first into a rock or whatever because he's
Right.
not really paying attention. So I do think he has those moments where you're just like, wow, yeah, he is kind of the man. And when he comes, he's trying to help them to harvest quickly. We learn that it's because of this evil gang of grasshoppers, which I love the analogy or the kind of comparison that they're like a biker gang, that they're a scary biker gang, and because
Yes.
they're always like let's ride, and then the lead the lead grasshopper is named Hopper, which kind of sort of sounds like Chopper, and the kind of guy who would be the leader of a bike gang. But these guys are coming, and they're going to come for this food that the ants have to gather for them. And while they're trying to get everything together, Flick's invention accidentally knocks over this altar, this offering altar, which I look at and go, "Why did you make it so flimsy? Just put it." They already had it on like a leaf. Just put it on the ground for them. Like, why
Like
does it have to
not
be
next to the water. It
everything about
falls.
everything about that was just like why are you doing that? Why are you making it so risky to put that up there? So
But
he
introducing Hopper, Hopper honorable mention for probably one of the best Disney villains of all time.
can you do honorable mention and then honorable mention again? I don't know.
Honorable mention, yeah, multiple. This movie deserves it.
Okay.
So many honorable mentions.
Yeah. So
But
yeah,
look
I mean,
at
yeah, Hopper's scary.
like Hopper is scary.
There's a scene in here, and jumping ahead a little bit, where Hopper basically kills three of his guys, and I'm just like, wow, this is a dark movie,
I think the best part.
and
This
it's
I'm sure you're
G.
familiar, Rob.
It's G.
It is G.
So go ahead.
I'm sure you're familiar with the Disney animated short, which is obviously a very well known fable, The Ant and the Grasshopper, which
Mm-hmm.
is where Bug's Life gets its origin from, obviously evolved.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like this trope that there's no way an ant can survive. And Hopper seems so villainous in his gang, and when he puts his foot on the ant's head, like he could just squash him. That is a little surprising. It is G.
Yeah, that's true. No, I get it. I so basically he knocks over the offering, and then the grasshoppers would normally come grab the food and leave, and Princess Ada, this is her first time kind of being in charge, and she says they come, they eat, they leave, they come, they eat, they leave, and then meanwhile she doesn't know that Flick has ruined everything by knocking all of the food off the cliff into the water. They think that they haven't actually been collecting food for them, and so they pound their way into the anthill and basically threaten them and say, look, we're going to be back by the time the last leaf falls, and you got to have more food for us. Flik tries to speak up, and he's like, okay, now double that order. And again, that's the kind of thing that a bully would probably do. And so then now they're all in fear of their life. They're angry with Flik. They're trying to figure out what to do with him. They're going to reprimand him. But, in doing so and trying to figure out what the best way is to do, they realize, or he realizes along the way, that maybe we need to go get some help from some bigger bugs. And they're like, that's great, because he'll leave and maybe he'll never come back and he'll never be able to complete this task, which again, who could blame them with what we've already seen in the first 15 minutes of the movie about what he's done.
Yeah, and I do think that is a good lesson inside this film. Flick is such like a down to earth character. I think he's super relatable. People make mistakes, things like that happen, and Flick always gets back on his feet. No, regardless, and he doesn't even look at it as a negative to leave. So, I think it's fun just following that energy through the film. And even when we get to the end, like how it plays out, he evolves through the film himself too. So.
Yeah. Well, and another thing that's kind of neat about this is that we're not stuck in that one scene, on Ant Island, as they call it, and we get to go visit the big city where he's going to run into this ragtag group of circus performers, and it's just genius what they put together. And again, tons of bug jokes. There's jokes about him being, a stick bug. There's jokes about him being, about P.T. Flea and his whole circus instead of P.T. Barnum, and just all the coolness of it. Like again, the little circus they've set up with a box of candy for seats, and then you've got the spotlights or fireflies. It's just really well thought out, and all the little jokes that are in there. It's just a really fun scene to see, and then them making fun of the ladybug, because we all assume a ladybug is a female because it's got lady in the name, and then Francis is kind of a badass, for lack of a better term, and gets upset every time anybody says anything about him being a female. But
circus bugs are legit.
Yeah, they are, and again, there's Joe Ranft and David Hyde. Is it David Hyde Pierce and then Dennis Leary? But the candy corn thing just reminds me of old school Bugs Land. I miss Bugs Land. We can talk about Bugs Land at the end, but I miss Bugs Land.
We do need to talk about some park incorporation at the end, but
yeah, for sure.
Just watching, there's a scene I love when they're at the circus. The flies, like, we got to get out of here. We only have 24 hours to live. We're not spending it at this place. The writing is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's very cool the way that they've done that, and all the little bug jokes, and what part these individual bugs would play in a circus. That the praying mantis would be the magician, and the moth would distract, and I don't know. It's really well put together, all the different pieces of it.
Each of those characters, there's not a character I don't like in this film, and I think that's. There's not a character that I do not like in this film. I think the character design on the circus, like Gypsy, the moth, I think I was reading before we did this, it's over like 1,000 pieces of hair just on her face that they had to animate. So just the art design that went into each and every single one of these, you can tell how much they put into these characters so early on in Pixar's career, which I feel like kind of falls short now. Like, I just watched Turning Red, and this might be bad to say, but I didn't feel like very connected to those characters. Where Bug's Life, I will always feel connected to those characters.
You're welcome to say anything you want. It's fine. It's the internet.
I hope it's not unpopular, but
no, it probably is unpopular. But you're welcome to say whatever you want. My boys are tuck and roll. These guys are hilarious. Up. I mean, just I don't know. I just love tuck and roll.
So I had them as plush. I remember as a kid having a tuck and roll plush that I carried with me everywhere. I had a Flik pillowcase. I was born 2 years after the film came out, but I don't know. My dad put me on a good one, I guess.
Did they have like plastic faces?
They were all plush, but the shell was hard.
I guess
I have a picture somewhere. I should have pulled it up.
I'm looking at this, and I'm trying to figure out is that
Yep, that was it.
that's
Maybe I
funny.
remember. They do have hard faces. Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, but most of the rest of them, I mean, I guess their arms are plastic and the face is plastic. So you can buy this used set of that says they're talking tuck and roll talking interactive electronic plush. Did yours talk?
I I don't remember, honestly. Do not
Oh,
remember.
okay. Well, you can get them on eBay, so have at it.
Maybe I'll have to
Um,
check it out.
yeah, maybe. I again just the the one thing that really gets me though is like the flaming death. Like that stunt is so like everybody's involved. It's so well thought out, and like I would love to see that in real life. But I mean, the fact that like he's like it kind of classifies PT as a genius for this thing. It's like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna light it, it's gonna happen. Meanwhile, everybody's gonna be blindfolded, and they're gonna they're gonna make a web, and it's gonna save everybody, and it's gonna be great. And then it all falls apart so quickly. Um, but basically because Tuck and Roll start fighting each other and it all goes down. But everybody's trying to do their bit, and the timer gets fast forwarded, and then Dim jumps too early, and then she can't make make it solid. Like it all goes exactly wrong, even though it's all kind of great. So
Yes.
anyway, so
That's exactly like what I want to imagine bugs do on their free time. Is put together little circuses and
sure. Lot of Easter eggs in this movie, especially the fact that like the Casey Jr. cookies, in referencing Casey Jr. from Dumbo, um, they pack up the circus and you see the Casey Jr. cookies, and then they pan up the hill, and then you see that they're right down from the Pizza Planet truck. Um, so, I mean, just all these little Easter eggs hidden throughout the thing. And I think that this is really the first time I think we're seeing that in Pixar. They didn't really hide a ton in Toy Story. There was AA13 or A113, but it was the beginning. And so this one, the only thing I think is missing from this movie, if I'm not mistaken, is the Pixar ball. Like A113 is in it. The Pizza Planet truck is in it. Also, at some point, Pixar movies used to reference the next Pixar movie, and I don't think this one does.
I don't think they reference the next, but I don't know if you've seen the Bugs Life outtakes from the credits.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good mention too. It's not a egg or anything, but just another fun thing they threw in
Well, and
the
Woody's in
film.
there, so I mean, theoretically, you could say because Toy Story 2 was the next movie that was your reference for the next movie.
Yeah.
But who knows? The city scene is amazing. Like just this scene with him coming into the city for the first time, and you can see that there's the Lion King Broadway play Broadway poster, because this was supposed to represent Times Square at the time, and so the fact that they threw in the actual Lion King poster is really cool. And then they've got Darla listed there, who was the one of the producers, and then they used her name later for Finding Nemo. But it's just really neat to see this whole like city scene when he's coming in.
Yeah, love it. They even have like the homeless bug on the side, or the homeless cricket
Yeah,
on the side of the
like
tree.
somebody pulled my legs off, kind of with our little kid
Yeah,
pulled my legs off. Yeah. Um, the reference, and I'm looking for it here. The reference for A113 in this one is kind of neat because it's written on the side of this box. And
that
then
is cool.
95 is the year that Toy Story came out. So there's always a lot of references to 95 throughout the Pixar universe, including Lightning McQueen's number. Um, just a lot of cool little things in it that now that I can go back to it, I appreciate differently than when I saw it the first time. The first time you're just watching it because it's a Pixar movie, and Pixar movies are great. And at this point, we didn't have the same level of expectation, I think, in Pixar movies that we do today. And I think maybe they've missed the mark a little bit. I feel like they have anyway. There was a Family Guy joke that said something about even Pixar movies aren't a slam dunk anymore. Um, and that's kind of true. I mean, the last three have been
Yeah.
on been on Disney Plus directly, but I know that I'm hearing great things about Lightyear, and I think that you're going to see Lightyear any minute now, right?
I'm going to see Lightyear
Yeah,
today. Yes.
that's exciting. So furthering this along, he goes into this basically the equivalent of a bar. He's looking for some warrior bugs, and it just so happens that the entire troop of circus bugs has been fired by PT Flea because they screwed up the flaming death bit. They're in this bar trying to figure out what to do. They get the flies that Francis had given a hard time to at the show. Bring back their big thug friend. They come up to him, they try to threaten him, and so instead of like trying to fight back, they use their thespian powers and pretend to be warriors. And that's when Flik sees them and thinks that they're warrior bugs, says that he's been scouting for talented bugs, and they think that that means talent scout. And then now we're in an episode of Three's Company, look it up, where it's like there's a misunderstanding, which then leads to them going back to Ant Island with him, where he thinks he's taking bugs that are going to be able to fight. They think that they're going back to put on a show and to actually entertain again. So. But it's again, it's a neat premise. The idea that now he's gotten them, he brings them back, and then the whole village is now like, wait a minute, we sent him away. We thought there was no chance he would come back. Even all the little kids are taking bets that he won't come back. But Dot believes in him the whole time, and he comes back to the colony. So now the warrior bugs are there. The one
Their
thing.
journey too. Their journey back to Ant Island is an amazing scene when one of them's hanging on to Flik, or Flik's like floating through the air, and
Yeah,
he's so happy to bring him back.
it's so coordinated, right? It's so
Yes.
coordinated because they seem to get like right off the bat, like this is how things work. Like, oh, I'm gonna pick up the ones that don't fly, and I guess superheroes do that sometimes too. But like, I'm gonna pick up the ones that don't fly, and then I'm gonna take them, and then everybody who is flying actually kind of grabs somebody else, and then they're
Yep.
off. So yeah, it is very cool the way that they journey back. And then again, the animation there is just beautiful and breathtaking and probably way ahead of its time. So
And one of the most recent Pixar movies that I is like top three on my list is Coco. I love Coco. I think it's a beautiful film, but there are scenes in Coco that are just a little too dark for me. Like it'll be dark for a very long time, and I think it can get slow. Where Bugs Life, it's just the whole time. I never have an issue. It's so much fun to watch.
okay, that's fair. Um, Again, that's a hot take though when you say I'm not like I've got problems with Coco and I'm not a super fan of the characters from Turning Red. Get ready for some hate mail. Um,
That's fine. That's fine.
I know. So they get back to the colony, and during this time when he's been gone, they've been busy trying to put the food back on the rebuilt altar. Why? Why would they do that again? I mean, that's the flaw to me in this whole story is why would they, Katie? Why would they do this?
Because they're just ants. They're just ants. They don't think like that. All they know is gather, survive. And I think that's what makes Flick special is he thinks above that. Where Princess Ada's just gonna keep telling them to do the same thing. But also they think Flick is gone, so it could be like no one's here to mess it up.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm like that's, and again, the story doesn't progress if that's not a problem, right? If he doesn't knock it over in the first place, then he never leaves to go. I mean, then Hopper comes, he gets his food. He does say something which I meant to mention before, where when Hopper is telling them, "You're the ants, you get the food, we come, we eat the food, we leave," and he says it's a circle of life kind of thing, which again was there's several little references it seems like to the Lion King in here. I read
It,
something where somebody was trying to even say that the scar on Hopper's face is sort of the equivalent of the villain Scar's scar on his face.
I think my favorite quote from the entire film, I say it all the time, is it's a bug eat bug world out there. It is a bug eat bug world out there.
Well, the Queen says it's our lot in life. It's not a lot, or it's our
It's not a
lot.
lot.
What?
I know. Keep
And
going. You
she
got
says
it.
it's not our it's our lot in life. It's not a lot, but it's our life. Like, she's making that little joke, which I feel like I've heard before, and I'm struggling to remember where, um, but little things like that I remember too from this movie that just that stick with me. And when I would hear them again as rewatching it, I would get like, oh yeah, I remember that, and that's something that I've said before. But sometimes, honestly, and again, we'll talk about the park stuff at the end. Is like sometimes I get a little confused between "It's Tough to Be a Bug" and "A Bug's Life" because there are some things where I'm like, which one was that? Not you,
Really?
because this is religion to you. So.
To say the least.
Also, from like a visual standpoint, and I think this must have been in the trailer. There's this one scene that happens where this this almost kind of reveal with the bug climbing up the top. Like I feel like that was like maybe the opening scene of the trailer or something like that because I remember that visual very strongly. So the warrior ants have landed. The colony is finally on board with the idea that maybe these guys can save them, and so they put together a dinner for them. And in this dinner that they put together, they play almost this like ant tribal type of music, and they have like this dais set up where they're everyone's a guest of honor. They're playing the music, and then the little school kids come in and show this mural that they've made of all of the warrior bugs getting basically torn to shreds. And this is the first time that they're actually realizing, hey, wait a minute, maybe we're not here to do dinner theater. Um,
I need that mural hanging somewhere.
I like why doesn't it exist somewhere?
It should. It should. At Lamplight Lounge, they need it.
It's a little dark, and they're like, yeah, we even killed one of you guys just to make it authentic. And then
Yeah.
Heimlich turns this like shade of white. Um, and then they bring in the a different group of kids to do like a little school play about the warrior bugs and what happens to them, and it's just like this whole death battle that they do. And meanwhile, that like you see the passage of time on the faces of all the bugs, and they're like, okay, well, I guess we are out of here. Um, it's kind of funny, and I'm glad that they do the reveal that early, so that at least the warrior bugs are like, okay, we're out of here. And then when Flik goes to get them, bring them back, they're kind of in on it from that point on, and so it's good that that part of it got out early. I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's something rewatching Bug's Life. I always forget that it happened so quickly. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, they're already mad. Like,
Yeah, I mean it's 90-minute movie. This happens about like it's basically right at the end of the first act that you've learned that they learn that that's the thing. They start to sneak away. He tries to stop them. They eventually start to go, and then they do a heroic rescue of Dot, and Francis breaks his leg at the same time. And when they come back to the colony, they hear applause, which they haven't heard applause before because nobody likes their circus act, and so they're just we could get used to this. So now he's convalescing, getting his leg fixed. The little blueberry troop, which I think is cute. They
mhm.
they like to they want to hang around with Francis, Miss Francis as they keep calling him, and learn from him and play card games and things like that. And so they start to like the fact that wait a minute, like I like this applause. And Flick's like, okay, I think I have an idea, and if we can make it sound like your idea, then we can keep you guys here. You can keep all of your adulation, and I can save my colony, which is to build a fake bird.
The bird.
Why isn't there a version of that? Is there a toy of that fake bird, like that would be on a string that you could swing around? There needs to
I've
be more
never seen one.
merchandising.
There needs to be more merchandising. I have a picture of the pillowcase that I used for like years. I have some plush. I have the Princess Ada and Flick from Pixar Pier, the Heimlich toss skin. But
Okay.
merchandise, yeah, they're kind of lackluster. I am always saying that. There's if you guys are familiar with the parks at Lamplight Lounge in Disney California Adventure, they have a wall of art, and there's a shirt of like Flick's autonomy where he's like looking to the side, and it's a circle graph Um, but I've been looking for that shirt forever. Someone needs to make it online, please. Begging for more Bugs Life merch.
So, and again, this is the second Pixar movie, and they were able to put together a huge, I think, what was a huge voice cast of the time. Bonnie Hunt as Rosie. So Bonnie Hunt comes back in Cars, and then Madeline Kahn was a big deal. She was the Gypsy Moth. Dennis Leary as Francis, David Hyde Pierce as the stick bug. Phyllis Diller was as the Queen, which Phyllis Diller was the Queen of comedy. Julie Louise Dreyfus as Ada, Kevin Spacey as Hopper pre his issues. Dave Foley, Richard Kind as Molt, Hopper's lackluster brother. Joe Rampt as Heimlich. But Hayden Panettiere as Dot. I don't know that I knew until looking this up for this, that Hayden Panettiere from Heroes, as in the cheerleader from Heroes, and then of course Nashville, that she was Dot. Did you know that or not really?
I'm not too familiar with her, to be honest. I think I am such a film person. I love knowing voice actors. Bugs Life has always been one of those movies I kind of stay away from,
So I've just ruined your
voice acting
childhood by
wise.
saying these things out loud. A lot of these
No,
people
like
that again, they
I
probably were
knew
not a big deal to
Dreyfus
you.
was like definitely some '90s names for sure. I knew Dreyfus was Ada, things like that. But like I know the voice of Flick, but I still can't even imagine what he looks like because I don't want to think differently of him as a character because I let myself do that too much with other characters.
Well, I don't think it matters with Dot, so I hope this isn't a spoiler. But this is,
Oh no, it's okay. I'm not familiar with her other work, so
yeah. So she was the cheerleader on this TV show that NBC had called Heroes, and it was "Save the Cheerleader, Save the World" was their slogan, and so she was kind of the lead in that one. But it's interesting that she is, I mean, obviously she got her start doing stuff as a kid, and she was the voice of Dot. So, but
that's
I
cool.
didn't know that until this. Um, So again, kind of a huge voice cast, but most, I guess, most important voice cast is John Ratzenberger as P.T. Flea, because he's also Ham from Toy Story, and then kind of became Pixar's lucky charm because he was in all the Pixar movies in some way, shape, or form.
Right. I've
Um,
seen. I think in Cars they do like a or one of the Cars movies. They have a compilation at the end of like everything he's been involved with.
Right. So they have them all of those things, but as cars. So it's like Ham as a
Yes.
car and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I know that you love this movie, so I'm going to ask you a couple trivia questions that popped up for me um,
Okay.
while I was watching it, and see if you know the answer to this. I assume you do, again, because you're
I'm
really into
scared.
this. Well, you know what? You should be.
All
This
right.
we'll start with an easy one. With the grasshoppers, there's one that seems to be mad, like crazy. Uh, what is that? What is that guy's name?
Oh my gosh.
Oh
It's like
wow!
some dog name. I see. I might. It's like a dog name. They
It
call him.
almost looks like they've got a zombie on a chain because he's like a light color. He seems to be out of control. He seems to be brainless and crazy, and so they use him to like
Oh
sick him
my
on
god. What
people.
is his name?
No, that's what I
I don't
asked
know.
you.
It's like oh I don't know. I might have to pass.
Okay. Thumper.
Thumper. Oh
Because
okay. I've
apparently
heard
that
of
was
him.
one of John Lasseter's favorite characters.
Really?
Um, there's a soda that they keep showing in the town, and it's actually at the top of the tower of what would be Times Square. There's a full bottle of it. There are bottle caps that make up the tables and things in the bar. Do you know the name of that soda?
No. You're getting me. Stop.
Sorry, it's PJ Soda.
PJ
Um,
Soda.
yeah.
Oh,
What card game did Francis say he was going to stay and teach the blueberries? What card game do you know he was going to stay and teach the blueberries? Don't be mad at me. I'm sorry. These are just things that I notice and I go, hey, that would be a good trivia question.
I know the little cards. Like I could tell you what the cards look like, but the game, it has to be a bug joke.
No, it's canasta which is I think an old game.
I
I'm
don't
not
even know
familiar with
that.
canasta, but yeah, he says he's going to stay and teach the blueberries canasta. And then I think this last one will be almost impossible for you, so I almost hate to
I
ask,
haven't
but
got
um,
none.
yeah, the mural that we love so much was made by what class? I don't think you'll know this at all.
It's like the second grade class.
It is the second grade class. It's the South
Yeah,
Tunnel second grade class.
second grade. Yeah.
I think you got that one. I think you got that one.
Okay,
Um,
that makes me feel better.
there you go. Yeah. So anyway, again, these are just things when I'm watching. I don't actually know, and people need to let me know if they appreciate the trivia, because I'm always when I'm
I
watching
like
it
the
looking for
trivia.
trivia, little things that I see in it, and it's not like the behind the scenes trivia, like um, like the Joe Rampt being Heimlich and things like that. But anyway, so
Oh,
basically at this point they've come up with a plan to keep the grasshoppers away, because they know they can't come up with um, all of the food they need to get done by the time the last food fall or the last leaf falls. They're already having trouble with that, so they decide to reinvest their time in Flik's idea, which he has lit the warrior bugs or the circus bugs tell the story or the plan, so that it doesn't sound like it comes from him, because they don't trust Flik's plans. And so they come together and tell he tell they tell the story to Ada, who then she tells it to the colony and said this is the plan the warrior bugs have come up with, and they all get together to build this bird, which is kind of cool, and it's very realistic in the way that they would do it. If you look at it, I mean, it's not like they get like model glue or something that they wouldn't have access to. They're using the pieces around them to make this bird.
it's
All of
like
the
the Egyptians building the pyramids.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the fact that they use like the webbing and all of them pulling together with their strength, and the things that they put in there to make the bird is kind of amazing. And I loved this part. This was my favorite part when I saw this as a kid, is um, seeing them all the pieces fall together for the bird. Um, so anyway, very cool, and they do a whole montage of them making the bird, and then they put the bird up in there, and then you cut to the grasshoppers, and they're in Mexico having a good time, and some of the guys convince Molt, who is again the not so bright brother of Hopper, that he should tell Hopper that they shouldn't bother going back to that stupid ant island, because they've got all the food they need here. They're having a great time here. They don't want to risk getting involved with the rain, because the rain is a thing that they know could be a problem for them. And so Molt tries to convince Hopper. Hopper lashes back out at him. Immediately, Molt turns in these guys and said, "They made me do it." Hopper, the scene that he plays is almost like something out of The Godfather, where he goes in and he's like, "Oh, maybe we should go back. Yeah, it's just, it was just one ant that stood up to me." And they're like, "Yeah, that's just one ant." And then he throws a seed at them and they're like, "Yeah, that's no big deal." And he's like, "How about this?" Rips the thing, all the seeds crush these three guys, and I'm like, Hopper just killed three dudes.
He's cold blooded. Hopper, he is scary. If I could choose to stay away from a Pixar villain, it would be him.
Well, yeah, and again, I mean, we can talk about how like the park attraction is, but yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, that's scary.
That's ruthless of him to just kill his own. Like,
Yeah,
it's not even just the ants, even his tribe is scared of him. So,
yeah, he rules by fear. But it's interesting that
yeah.
at this point he knows that there are more ants than there are grasshoppers, and that the ants could overtake them if they ever learned. And so that's why he needs to go back, is to teach them a lesson. So he goes back, and when he's on his way back is when it's revealed that the warrior bugs aren't really warrior bugs, because PT Flea comes back to collect his clowns, and in doing so outs them as not being warrior bugs. So they, along with Flik, get basically ostracized and kicked out of the colony. Now everyone's trying to like furiously try to gather food again, because they know that these guys are coming. It's going to be a bloodbath because there's not enough food. And so then along the way, Dot goes back to get Flik and says, "Hey, you got to come back. They're going to need you, and they're going to kill my mom." And that's, again, a very dark place. It's like, hey, Hopper's just basically holding her hostage until he gets all this food, and then he's just going to squash her. So freaking dark. Come on, Katie. How is this your favorite movie as a kid? You shouldn't have even been allowed to watch this.
I think it makes it easier knowing that they are just bugs. Like I think there's darkness in a lot of Pixar films, but in this one it's just so it's hard to even take it as like that serious because it's such a lighthearted tone otherwise, but when it does get dark, it does. Like that is kind of concerning, but she's not going to die like
Yeah, I guess, but it again is very dark, and so Flik does come back, and they execute the bird thing, which works great until PT Flea messes the whole thing up again. Like at this point, we hate PT Flea, right?
I don't yeah. I
I
mean, I
mean,
said I don't dislike any characters in this film, but he's quite annoying.
he's the one. He fires them. He's the one that screwed the thing up in the first place. Kinda. I guess it was Tuck and Roll that screwed it up. And then he outs them as not being warrior bugs. And then he's the one that, when the bird is working, he lights it on fire and makes it crash. And now the whole facade is gone. And then, in thinking quickly, Flick basically lures Hopper to the real bird, who eats him. Again, super
Thank
dark.
God.
Well, thank God, yeah, but it's still
That
super dark.
that last scene right before Hopper dies of Flick confronting him, though,
Oh,
cinematic history.
oh,
Best part of the movie.
because of him standing up to Hopper, even though Hopper's like beating the crap out of him and all that stuff.
Yeah, he's got the black eye. Like Flick has gone through it at this point, and he's still not giving up. So good message in this film.
Well, by the way, and that's, it takes that moment for like the whole Captain America, I could do this all day kind of a thing. It takes that moment for the rest of the colony to stand up and go, wait a minute, if we're all like in lockstep, because he says that, Flick says that to Hopper, like, that we can take you, right? And then they kind of go, wait a minute, we kind of can. But yeah, he's pulling himself up almost like in a Rocky Balboa moment. Again, kids, look
It
it
makes
up.
me sad seeing him like that.
Yeah. But then,
Heartbreaking.
yeah, look at the fire in the background and the Hopper thing. Yeah, that's intense, man.
It is. It's so good though.
Um, so anyway, they all live happily ever after. The circus bugs, and the village stays intact, and or the colony, and
Princess Ada and Flick
yeah. But also at the
happily
the
together.
end, the idea, which I don't think this may have been the first time I ever saw it, that there would be animated bloopers as if they were actors, like
It's
knocking into the
so funny.
camera, and yeah, like, I mean, clearly these weren't even bloopers that they animated. This was just, they went out of their way to fake bloopers for this thing, and it was just so funny. And one of them, again, another sort of Easter egg, is when Flick picks up the thing and says "to infinity and beyond," and he's like, "Ah, I'm just kidding. I had to do it."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's this scene right here.
It's so
So
goofy.
yeah, I mean, I love that concept though. That, like, the fake outtakes at the end of the movie. It's just like, I'd love to have been like seeing who did the pitch to that. Who was like, this is gonna be great.
That's the beautiful thing about Pixar is they make something that you think you would never know
Yeah.
knowable. Like they make this Bugs Land feel so relatable, and I guess that's our step into the parks.
It is. So, the first thing I think happened really more than, and I don't remember the timeline, but I believe that the first thing that happened was that the Tree of Life at Animal Kingdom, and they made the Tough to Be a Bug movie at the base of it. Then they made a second version of It's Tough to Be a Bug, and in Disney's California Adventure, in the what was it called? The land, it was Bountiful
Bountiful
Farms.
Valley
Oh, it was,
Farms. Yeah,
yes. So,
I don't
um,
know.
no, it was Bountiful.
the
Uh,
the craziest thing to me about Tough to Be a Bug I
Yeah.
think this is I don't know if you were going to touch on it, but I think this is just the craziest part is that it was built before the movie even came out.
Was it?
Tough to be a Bug was because Animal Kingdom opened in '98 and Bugs Life came out in '98.
Okay.
So
All right.
they had before the movie even came out, they were praying, please do well, because we were running this attraction in our icon for the park. So they were working on, I think there's videos from '97 of them working on the animatronic Flik and Hopper and how big of a deal like the Hopper animatronic was and how screwed they were if the film did poorly. So I always think that's like a cool thing about being in Tough to Be a Bug is it was there before people even saw the film.
Well, and kind of the same thing happened with Dinosaur. That they were doing Dinosaur at the same time they were building the Dinosaur, like Countdown to Extinction. Same time they were doing Dinosaur. Here's Flick, the animatronic coming out of the ceiling. I love that animatronic, by the way. I think it's so
Me
well done.
too.
The way he's like, okay, little guy, where should you be? I mean, but like when he comes down and looks around and his fingers wrap around the edges as he does that. I mean, that's just I mean, there's probably nothing more to him up there than we get to see, but then it just as his fingers come out. I mean, they could have had it where his fingers were already on the edge, but they were smart enough, or they went to the enough detail to have the fingers come out of the hole and then him pull himself into the room. Just
And
really well done.
I am the biggest Muppet Vision fan there is. I love the Muppets with my whole heart, but Tough to Be a Bug is probably still my favorite show at a Disney park.
Well, here's the thing about that is when my kid was little, scared to death of that show. And there's a lot of intense stuff.
Spiders.
I mean, not only the spiders coming down and then the bugs shooting acid at you, but then, when Hopper jumps out, that animatronic is so scary when that Hopper animatronic pops out of the wall. And then he's like, you guys, you're not real bugs. We're going to get you. And it's just like, well, wait a minute. This is the same guy that was going to, like, kill three of his friends and was going to squish a head. But there was a lot to that show that freaked him out so bad that there were years where we didn't go back to it. I loved it too, but it's kind of next level intense because you've got the bugs that climb under your butt. You've got the again the fly swatter that comes down on you, the spiders that come from the ceiling, the Hopper animatronic that pops up, the bug that shoots acid. Like there's a lot.
The even just I personally I like it better Animal Kingdom than California Adventure. Even though I'm a huge Bugs Land fan, I my love for DCA has gone down since Bugs Land has left the party. But Animal Kingdom, it's just this whole experience, like the queue leading into the Tree of Life, the theater waiting room with all of the posters. That is one of I could sit in that room all day. I have memories of being a kid running around there where when it's empty, waiting for the show to get in, and I just love it at Animal Kingdom.
Yeah,
It's my favorite attraction there.
it's really cool, but it is a little claustrophobic because
I'm
if
not
it's
someone.
but
You're
if it
talking to someone whose favorite ride is Submarine Voyage. So
okay. Well, yeah, but I mean, they pack you into that room, and the ceilings are low. And again, it's supposed to be themed that you're in the base of the tree, and that you're there, and you're the size of a bug, and you get to be an honorary bug, and you put on the bug glasses, and yeah, it's all very well done. But again, I think it's a little claustrophobic. But I do love like the music, the Beauty and the Bees, all those little
oh yeah,
puns. As a Muppet fan, I get why you were all about this too. So. Um,
yeah.
yeah, it is pretty cool. So they made this, and then they made a version at DCA at Bountiful Valley Farm. Why are we having such a problem with that? Which was one of the
I don't know.
original lands. And then they were like, "Hey, we're gonna make this land bigger." And it was after like the whole Pixar Disney merger that John Lasseter got to really kind of play in the parks, and they designed Bugs Land, and it was really cool. It was really cute. Like the Flix Flyers was a really neat thing. Which were like the you know
Heimlich.
the containers that would go around. The Heimlich Choo Choo Train was obviously my favorite, where you ride around and you smell the animal crackers, and he's like candy corn. It's just really was really just it was very well thought out. It was very adorable, um,
I agree. I don't
but
need a big attraction,
right. But
but
it was a lot of kid stuff too, like the tuck and roll bumper cars and uh, the the Francis's, Ladybug, whatever that one was. So there was the Tuck and Roll, there was Dot's Puddle Park, there was the Francis Ladybug thing, and then there was the Flik's Flyers, and that was pretty much it. And then you had the movie, which had already existed, and then like the bathrooms that looked like they were in a big tissue box, um, and then it was covered with like the four leaf clovers or the three leaf clovers over top to give it some shade, which you don't get a lot of shade in Disneyland. So it was neat that they had all that set up. I loved it. It was cute, but give me Avengers Campus instead. If you had to pick, yeah, no, hate me. I'm just telling you, give me
Oh,
Avengers Campus
I
instead.
that is sacrilege. Like I cannot believe you just said that. Bugs Land is something I think I was just the perfect age for Bugs Land, and I'm someone who doesn't need a big flashy attraction to have fun. Like I just want to feel immersed, and I think Bugs Land was one of the best immersive lands in that park. At night, walking through there when it was quiet, looking up, and the clovers are all above you, you feel like a bug. And I don't feel like an Avenger when I'm in Avengers Campus, but that is a different debate.
You don't feel like an Avenger when you're in Avengers Campus. Okay.
No, I do not feel like a superhero.
The one thing that I think it was really cool that they did though, and it was a very thoughtful touch, was that they had once they started doing regular meet and greets again, they had a shrunk down like Pym particle shrunk down Bugs Land that Ant Man and Wasp were carrying around, as if they had shrunk down the original Bugs Land, and now that's Avengers Campus, but it still existed. I did think that that was a very thoughtful kind of homage to the Bugs Land. It doesn't bring it back. I
I
know. I
I
know.
think it's cute, but I think it's sad, and I think they should sell that
I think it's sad.
because
It
I
makes me
need that.
sad, and I need it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just look at the detail in this thing. I mean, the choo choo train, so good. Um, yeah, and then there was rumor at one point that, or maybe I made this up, but I think it was a rumor that the Honey I Shrunk the Kids Adventure Playground at Disney's Hollywood Studios would have been made into a like a Bugs Land, which would make sense. I mean, there's a part in the movie where Dot is sliding down a blade of grass, would have been very similar. So
Yeah.
that would have been a neat thing
I
to
did
see.
like that area though. I'm happy
The
it stayed.
which one?
The Honey I Shrunk the Kids
That
playground
it stayed as long as it did.
as it did, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, the entrance to Bugs Land was even pretty cool with everything looked as if it was kind of put together by the bugs. So
The bye bye sign as you leave. It's
yeah,
some good stuff.
it was sweet. But again, for me personally, sorry. I mean, I love the popsicle stick bench and all those little things that they put together. But for me personally, I was happy that they put together. Again, they don't have the blessing of size in Disneyland, and so they had to replace it with Avengers Campus if it seemed like the right place to do it, especially since they had just built the tower, modified that to be Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout. Made sense.
Wherever the Bugland fans are, though, next time you're in Avengers Campus and you're on Web Slingers, you can see one of the original Heimlich vehicles in the actual ride for Web Slingers. When you go through, it depends on which side of the vehicle you're on, but if you get lucky, the side facing the wall, it just looks like a robot. Like, you couldn't even tell, but that's Heimlich. So, fun fact.
It looks like a robot.
I'm sure you could find a picture. It kind of just looks like a vehicle, um, a like unshelled vehicle.
Yeah, I have this. I think this is the one that you're talking about here. Hang on a second.
Yes, so that's Heimlich, and it says Heimlich right on the bottom where that red is.
Nice. Well,
Yeah,
that's sad.
it's sad, but he's still there, kind of.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess so. But again, I would have preferred a world where both could exist. But
Me too.
and here's the original because he loves candy corn.
I guess it's just like if you have an affinity towards this film, you probably loved the land.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay. Well, you know what? Now the only thing really to talk about is to give your final thought, and I feel like we already know what you're going to say about this movie. So I mean, we talked about the voice cast, we talked about the plot, we talked about like the Pixar history, the Easter eggs, and of course the theme park stuff. But Katie, would you recommend this movie?
I'm really bad at hiding my feelings for the end, but yes, of course, I would always recommend Bugs Life. It is one of those movies I just put on in the background as feel good because the music's great. It's easy to watch most parts. There are some darker parts, but as a kid, I loved it. So if you have kids, please show them this. Share Bugs Life so it lives on. The characters are very memorable. I hope you guys dive back into it and rewatch it and have that love for it still. But definitely recommend. I know we were going to talk about sequel, and I will say I'm happy there is no sequel for Bugs Life. I'm someone who's very anti-sequel though because except for Toy Story. I love Toy Story 2. Toy Story 2 is probably my favorite Toy Story movie. But just seeing like Toy Story 4 where it can go, I'm happy the Bugs story is wherever they are and we don't need to know about it, and I imagine they're happy on Ant Island still.
It is interesting, though, isn't it? That again, Toy Story, Monsters Inc., Incredibles, Dory. I mean Nemo. All got sequels, and this one really is the only one of the originals that didn't. You didn't see another one without sequels till like Ratatouille and Wally, and some of those seem
Yeah.
a little bit more like where could they really go from here? Whereas this one, I would have loved to have seen more adventures in the city, and maybe that would be a cool Disney Plus show is like adventures in the city, like with the Bug City. I think that again with the myriad of bug jokes that they did, there could be something there. But I don't know that this movie was as popular and as like as big as it should have been because it was a great piece. Just from my piece of it, I'm going to say that I would definitely recommend this movie, and I don't think that there's probably anybody watching that hasn't seen it. But if you haven't seen it, it's definitely worth watching. It's sort of skippable, actually, if you think about it, because it's early in the animation process for Pixar. It's not Toy Story, it's not Cars, it's not Monsters Inc., it's not any of the big franchises, but yet they've still given it life in the parks, which means that they have some semblance of like I don't know, like just respect for it. So, definitely let us know in the comments what you think. I would recommend,
Comments.
yeah, I would recommend this one just because it's a solid movie and I think probably overlooked. But I also wonder what like today's generation of children would think of it too.
That is a good question. I will have to ask one next time I see one.
Next time I see a child, I'll ask the
I'll
child,
ask them.
yeah, what they would do.
Yeah.
All right, Kate, you're gonna have to come back. We'll have to do a show like you said, where we just do like rank Pixar movies,
We need Eric
beginning to end.
Wolf.
Yes, we should do that.
Bring
I
Eric.
mean, again, I'm
Yeah.
sure it's been overdone, but we haven't gotten to do it, so we should probably do it. But
Stay tuned, guys.
yeah, so thank you for coming back and for doing this show, and we hope to get you back again soon. Pick another one, and we'll tear it apart or cherish it the way that we did this one. Sound good?
Well, thanks. Yes, thanks for having me, Rob, as
Yeah.
always. I'm excited for the next one. Let us know what you guys think. I cannot wait to hear other opinions. So, thanks for watching, everyone.
Awesome. Have a good one.